Hey, Rally Besties, welcome back to the Writing with Annie podcast, where I talk about all things writing. In today's episode, look, we're going to be reacting to some writer pet peeves. So, welcome to the podcast. Go grab a drink of your choice, whether that be tea or anything. It's a bit hot right now in Australia, so I can't drink tea, which I wish I could because there is some tea in this video. So, if you guys enjoy, stick around. I'm really excited to get into it. So let's go ahead and get started. So I asked you guys on my Instagram. We recently just hit 12K this morning. So thank you so much. It's such a fun time over there and I post so frequently. So if you ever want more updates, head over to my Instagram. It's _AnnaNew. But I asked you guys, what are your writer pet peeves? And we're going to talk about them in today's episode. Let's get into it. Okay. The first one that I see right now is mixing up your, and this is your with a Y-O-U-R. Why is it so hard for me to spell? With you? Yes, U-O-U. No. Y-U. I can't even spell. Sorry. It's mixing up your with your, if that makes sense. So like your with like plural, you are. Is that plural? Look, I don't even know. And you know, the reason why I don't know is because I am guilty of this. I am guilty of mixing them up. So whether that be theirs, I'm usually a bit better with that, but with your and yours, there's countless like writegram, reels I have where I've spelled it wrong. So I I can't spell out loud, and I can't know my differences between your and yours. So I know now. Okay. It's just I focus so much on creating my reels and like content that I mess up. And even like in a recent video, I said foolproof. Foolproof, like F-U-L-L. Like foolproof when it's supposed to be fool, F-O-O-L. Basically what I'm getting at is I cannot I cannot spell, I cannot think of words when I need to, though I'm a writer. And that's just silly, and that's just how it is, I guess. So that's fun, okay? Let's not keep talking about my inadequacies as a writer and normal human being, to be honest. Okay, next one is getting an idea when you can't write it down or when you're in the middle of another project. Yeah, this is obvious. So many of my projects, are distraction projects, like Project O that I wrote during 2023. Like that started simply from an idea. The idea was just like a busking violinist or violin if you want to get really technical. Like literally a violin just captured me. Project Samson, for example, which you're like quite, I don't know, you like. That was literally inspired by a name. And one of my like kind of reels that popped off was kind of just me kind of saying like when writers come up with a new book idea when it's simply just like a name of a character, it's merely a name and they just like so slay. And I did see a reel recently, just kind of like this morning I think, where like someone's Roman Empire is basically all the books and all the ideas that never made it to paper because either it's forgotten or it's never written. So like that's interesting to think about. Okay. Anyways, let's move on. Getting a story idea and then forgetting to write it before you can. No, wait. Getting a story idea and then forgetting it before you can write it down. So quite similar. Next we have when I tell them I write romance and they give me that look. This is a bit of tea. Obviously, romance definitely has, a sort of reputation. I personally don't read romance part of that reason because I feel like it's just not for me. And one of my friends actually loves romance. Like, finally, she's into fantasy. But when she was into romance, I could just not get into romance because for me, like fantasizing and like reading about like real relationships is so boring to me. So like romance fantasy is so much more interesting to me. But if they give you that look, I guess that kind of the look implies that you write smut, which obviously is not real and not a representation of you as a writer. I think that's silly, and that's definitely a pet peeve. Like if I wrote fantasy and someone gave me that look, definitely. So I hope that's okay. I mean, obviously it's not okay, but I hope you're doing okay. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. When you can't find the right word to describe something. Yep. Yeah, that's me. Yep. Let's get into that. Uh, Look, thesaurus is my best friend, or synonym. Is there a difference? I think thesaurus is full of synonyms. That's right. Anyways, I get this a lot, and people are so unhelpful. I think I've said this in a couple of my videos where basically, like, when I'm like in a library or like with friends or even like with my brother, and I'm just like give me a like, can you help me describe this? Like, it's kind of like this word, and then it kind of means this, but not, and they're so unhelpful. They just like look at me like, I don't know, look it up. I'm like, anyways, let's move on. Writer's block. Someone says writer's block is a pet peeve. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm in writer's block right now. It's really hard to tell. Because I feel like writers are such mood people, mood writers. So like sometimes I just don't feel like writing, so I don't like write for a little bit, for like a couple days. And then I'm just like, oh my gosh, am I in writer's block? And it's like, no, I'm just chilling out. So it's kind of hard. But when you're in writer's block and you know it, it's even worse, I feel. So obviously a big pet peeve. When you think of a really good phrase, but the vibes don't fit, so you can't use it. Interesting. Maybe save it and use it for another project, but I don't know if I have this pet peeve. Very cool. I really like to learn about other people's pet peeves. Let's see. When your writing was going so smoothly and someone interrupts you, yeah. Literally, big sis tip is to keep writing. Like literally, if they're literally a teacher or someone or like, I don't know, the Pope, don't let them stop you from writing because you need to finish that sentence. Like, ugh, so many freaking times where I literally stop. Like, I used to write so much during class, which is not good. And I'll just kind of like get distracted, or like I would be like, oh my gosh, I should probably be working. When I literally was in the groove and I was about to write this word. And then when I get back to it, I'm like, didn't I write that on the page? Oh, I didn't write it on the page. So then I forget about it. And I literally like, oh, it's such a silly thing. So you like write and then it feels worse, or it feels like it's not as good because it's yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next one. When people with zero writing experience critique my work and suggest major changes. Shout out for people louder in the back. Oh, it's especially when people, like, this is also my pet peeve. Let me self-insert right here. I'm sure it's on this list, but honestly, when people, like, I tell people like, oh, I write books, or they kind of ask about it, and they're like, oh, I've always wanted to write a book, or like, oh, like, yeah, I would always want to write the book, but I just haven't found the time. And it's like, you think I've just been writing my whole life, like, and doing nothing else? Like, literally, like, what the heck? And the way that they just like think writing is easy, or like writing is not a big hobby, or writing is just silly, or again, easy. Like, they think it's easy to write a book. Ugh. And then also when people are just kind of like, yeah, I want to write a book. And then I get literally so excited, since that's literally what I do on this channel. Not my voice crack. Yeah, I kind of just get so excited, and then I literally like plot it out for them and help, and I give them so many ideas, and they never write it. It's kind of similar to people who I've always like wanted to encourage. I encourage people to like make a YouTube channel, and they never do. Although they're so passionate, and it's clear that the passion is not really there if they're not putting in the work to do it. You know what I mean? And that frustrates me because it's like, I thought you were one of those people, when obviously you're just someone who's like, oh, I want to do that. Totally. Yeah. Anyways, sorry. Got on a little rant there. Let's think about another one. Let me see. O is insert character name based off me. This has never happened to me, probably because I don't have any friends, or at least I don't have people around me. I'm alone. No, if someone actually, I don't know, I feel like I don't talk about my books in depth with people, and I don't have a lot of, I feel like guy friends would say this. I feel like men would say something like this. No offense to my male listeners right now. If you're a writer, you're okay. But people who are just like, oh, is my character Max? Is your character Max based off me? There are some cases where some characters are inspired by some people in my life, at least very loosely, but never to that extent. So, and I also don't get writers who insert their like exes into projects. Like, what the heck? Like, why would you want to be reminded of them? Or like people you hate, or people who bullied you. Like, why would you want them in your book? Something that you care so much about it. I can never get those people. But slay, I guess, if you're not bitter. I mean, obviously you're bitter if you put them in. Anyways, let's move on. When I know exactly what point to make, but I can't find the words to say it. Yeah, I feel like that's a writer struggle, not a pet peeve. It's a struggle. So I get that. Unbearably bad grammar. Let's hear it for the Wattpad girlies. I mean, I was pretty bad at grammar. I'm still pretty bad at it, especially like past tense, present tense. Like my editor, I feel so bad for her because like literally every sentence she's like changes. I'm like, oh, I totally like I thought I know what I was doing. I thought I slayed. No. And it's just so interesting how much grammar can like literally turn a whole scene on its head. At least with like my law school, the way that they mark exams, if you don't say how it is or your grammar's bad, they literally won't read it. So it's kind of interesting to know like how important the structure of a sentence is. And I hate it so much. That's why I love poetry, since poetry usually isn't to that extent of needing to know grammar. So I'm bad at spelling and grammar. That's what you've learned in this episode. Okay. People telling me just write, it's easy when I have a complex character universe. Yeah, that's it, besties. People think writing is easy, especially developing character. When you think about it, writers are literal mothers. We are mothers to our characters. Like it takes a lot of work, okay? Okay. When I want to write a character that's so distinct from myself, but it turns out similar, I did do a recent reel that's kind of about that, about how like we self-insert and kind of self-sabotage ourselves on the page because we represent our characters, or our characters more so represent us. It's so interesting. I think it's very poetic and metaphorical for us writers to have such self-reflections in the characters we create in our stories, because that's literally how it is. We want to tell our part of our life, a part of our message, and how can you do that if not through characters? So yeah, I feel like that's a pet peeve too, because it is really hard creating a character that's unlike you because you're not them. If I think of any characters that I've written, I feel like Lewis, I don't know, I feel like they're still they're not similar in a sense, but they're kind of like who I want to be. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. Anyways, let's move on to another one. Um, let's see. All the comparison on social media, it's so painful, honestly. Yeah. I feel like, yeah, like when I think of some reels of like just like these big success, like young authors, like, oh my gosh, I did it. And not knowing the work they put in, I feel like it's difficult because obviously social media in general, like this is just like a general comment of like how lives are portrayed through this very color graded lens, very filtered lens. And it's just something you can't really deal with. Obviously, it's hard to film when you're literally sobbing, for example. I mean, watch my query vlog if you want to see me cry. But you know what I mean? Like, I hope one day I'll have Project Ghost in my hand and I'll be able to, like, I published this book and look at it and how, like, that. But I understand what you mean by comparison, because it's hard, especially with just like word count and just, for example, I guess this can be applied for like books you've read that year or like books you've written that year, or like querying. I get so jealous. Like I'm gonna be real. Like I get jealous of writers, and sort of like inspiration turns into intimidation. Even with like authors I like love to read about, and authors that I read books on. There's some writers in the writergram community where I'm like, they're such a big success and it's hard to know how they got there, but they somehow got lucky. You know what I mean? The whole idea of luck is so hard in the writer sphere. But anyways, I get you, bestie. I get you. It's hard. Let me see. Uh, when people talk to me when I'm writing, yeah, just hold up the hand, say no. No, I'm writing, bestie. When you don't actually write and end up scrolling through Pinterest or TikTok. I feel like Pinterest is very relatable. Instagram Reels to me is really relatable, but I feel like I'm getting so much like writergram content, which I really like, but it kind of like that self-comparison and like, oh, I should be making reels right now. Although like it's silly because I actually have a little comment to make here about how writers don't necessarily need to enjoy what genre they're writing, if that makes sense. Like people say like, "Oh, this is a book that I've always wanted to read." When not in all cases. There's definitely some cases where writers can write a book that they wouldn't want to read in their spare time, which is so slay. So in the same way like my writergram content, I love it, but sometimes I just don't want to consume it, even though that's what I create. You know what I mean? So that's an interesting comment, I guess. Don't know what I was doing with that, but take it if you can. Um, Telling and thinking they're showing. Oh, when like writers, I guess, like tell and then they think they're showing. It's like show don't tell. That's interesting. I feel like that's really hard. And I've been learning a lot about that with my drafting process and editing Project Ghost. But it's definitely really hard. I don't blame anyone for doing it because I myself, it's hard to get the sort of, get used to and actually become a seasoned writer through doing it very intentionally. But I also think there's nothing wrong with telling. Like it's literally a book, and especially if your character is like in their monologue, there's going to be a lot of telling. Okay, so yeah, it's hard, especially if you're first POV, for example. Let me see. When I get a bunch of motivation and then when I go to write, my mind goes blank. Yeah, it's kind of giving me vibes of when I would go to school. I'd be so excited to get home so I can have free time to write. Then as soon as I get home, I'm too tired and I just fall asleep or have to do chores or literally just have to do teenage things, okay? Like it's a hard life out here, so it is really difficult. Why does everyone always need to make tea or coffee before writing? This is Tiana. Oh, she has a couple. Tiana is so funny. I just talked to her last night. I love her so much. I hope you're doing well, Tiana. But yeah, she has this thing about like writers not writing. Like in vlogs, in a lot of like writergram community, like just videos in general, like there's a whole like pretense of like that doesn't have anything to do with writing and they don't even tell the audience about their book and they don't like even share anything. It's just like them like making coffee before they write and sit down and film themselves. You know what I mean? Sorry about the scene change if you're watching on my YouTube. My camera ran out of battery. Woo! Anyways, let's talk about Tiana's thoughts. Yeah. If you guys don't know, Tiana's like one of my best friends. I'm going to meet her hopefully soon. So hopefully some vlogs are going soon. But I've done some writing like lives with her. Anyways, she's such a slay writer. She just launched her podcast. Go subscribe. It's called The Right Opinion with WRITE for the right part. Anyways, yeah, honestly, and that's what really I had like a huge compliment from her saying like that's why I like your videos because you actually talk about your books and talk about your story and what you're writing instead of just showing you just sit down and type a couple words on your keyboard and then that's that for the video. Like Tiana is a writer who's so deep thought, like she's so thought provoking and like the way that she explains things and how deep her thinking and feelings are towards writing is something that I'm like, yeah, that's so valid. And we should be talking more about our ideas, not just like kind of saying, oh, this is project B. That's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not going to say what the tropes are, the characters. Nope, you can't even know the names. Like, ugh, those people are kind of annoying me, to be honest. That's my pet peeve as well. Tiana, you and us both. She also said, also the fact that I have to actually write the thing rather than think it into existence. Yep, I feel like that's, again, quite a universal thing writers go through. So we understand that. Let me see. When people ask me what my book's about and I can't even explain it because I don't know it myself, I don't plot. Honestly, like when you're pantsing a book, it's really difficult to get like a whole pitch unless you know the full story. And also when to not like, to explain it in a way that doesn't give away the whole plot. Yeah, that's hard. So, yeah, that's really difficult, bestie. I'm sorry. I just really recommend getting like a little pitch. Like for example, Project Ghost, I've always just said to people who've asked, I'm just like, oh, it's a ghost story about 4 ghosts meeting a girl. And I leave it at that because if I go, I will derail and I will explain the whole plot and be like, oh, I can't tell you this. I'm going to tell you it anyway. And then tell it in such a logical order. It's not funny. So save yourself embarrassment. First POV. Really? In FF. I don't know what FF. Oh, fan fiction. It's so jarring. Please keep that for novels, I beg. Honestly, I don't know. I did read a little bit of fan fiction in my teen years. I'm still 19, so I don't read fan fiction anymore. Anyways, yeah, I get it. But it's kind of like I way prefer first person in fanfic rather than like insert your name. Like seeing it in the like, you know, the dialogue piece where it says in the, you know, square brackets your name. It's like, your name, how are you? It's kind of like it gets you out of the mood. Okay, that's some tea. When you have amazing ideas but your brain isn't braining. Yeah, that's another universal writing pet peeve. That's a slay. Someone also says finally having the motivation to write but lacking physical energy. That's me after school and uni all the time. I feel like that's me living, basically. People who don't think writing is a noble or real profession. That's some tea. That is some tea. I really hate those people. Like, they actually get under my skin. And the way that so many young writers particularly get told this, like at their face, especially to elders and people who, you know, they say that they're so passionate about helping them grow and helping them achieve their dreams, when no, you're just a conformist. You're just, I don't know, you're just silly. You're just traditional and silly. And silly and silly and silly. That's the T. Sorry, I keep saying that. Two characters in the same book whose names sound a little too similar. Okay, so this is more like a book. More external, not internal. Yeah, honestly, another pet peeve, if we're talking through that, is writers, especially fantasy writers, who for some reason love to name their characters literal crazy names. Like, it's not even funny. Like even the character Blue. Like, I get it, and this is kind of interesting because my character's called Red. Yeah, honestly, that's the T. That's the T. I do it myself. Honestly, that's fun, being your own pet peeve. But like, not so much like that. I like unique names to an extent, but if it's something like, I don't know, let me think of something. Oh gosh, it's hard. But usually like very flamboyant names are more so annoying, like Velisinanina. Like, girl, I don't know. Like, you know, really, really complicated, like 7-syllable names. Can't do it. But the little names, it depends if it's cute. For me, I also get really like touchy with names. So particular names which might seem weird are really cute to me, and then vice versa. So I like Red. I don't like Blue. Oh my gosh, what am I saying? Anyways, let's move on from that. Let me see. Bad writing but high reviews. Yeah. I get it. No outline, not even character plans. I don't know how that's a pet peeve, but okay, slay. When an author is introducing characters and starts by saying he was 6'5", like, be so for real right now. Yeah, descriptions. I feel like it wastes the amazing magic of a character introduction. So these are also some tips to learn for you writing your book, I guess. Let me think. Confusing it's with an apostrophe, your with your. Again, I'm guilty of this. I'm guilty. I don't know. I haven't gone to like writing school, okay? I just write my exams and my law assignments and silly stories. That's all I know. And I finished my diploma of high school. That's all I got, I'm afraid. Let me see. When the book doesn't just write itself in under 10 minutes. That's true. Okay, let's get to the bottom. I feel like I've skipped a couple, so sorry if you weren't featured in this little video. Forgetting the amazing line, I came up in the shower. Shower thoughts are really a real thing. And I know there's like a shower like waterproof pad you can get. That's a bit silly to me. But yeah, I literally get out of the shower. I usually do this with like lyrics or like poetry names I write. But definitely there's been a couple times where I like finish a plot. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. I don't know why. There's some sort of portal in the shower. That could be a book idea. Can you imagine? Yeah. I think there's a poem about like ideas going down the drain. Literally. Slay. Okay. Let me see. Let's pick a last one. Let's pick a really good one. Um, sorry, give me a second, y'all. These are my first time. This is my first time looking at everything. Someone says when I accidentally click Control V and some random text I copied a couple hours ago appears. That's funny. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, that's kind of it. Info dump. Someone says when someone says anyone can write a novel, that's some tea. That's some tea. When the characters are nothing like the characters I planned before writing the book. That's fun. That's a good one to end on. Let's end on that one. Sorry, I know this video could probably have been a little bit more planned by having, but I like to like react to it in real time with y'all because like it seems fun. So yeah, thank you so much for listening in. Sorry for the scene change, and thank you all who submitted the little pet peeves and just like clicking that little button and writing it out for me. Like, thank you so much, and I hope you were featured in this video. I won't be putting any like special effects because that will take too long to edit, and everything. So I hope you were just fun and you were able to just listen and help a girl out because I can't edit these podcast episodes because they'll take way too long, and I like the sort of very natural, sort of means of talking. I feel like I talked for a long time and I'm really hot in my room, so I'll end right now. And thank you so much for watching this episode, and definitely check out my other episodes if you like this sort of content, and of course subscribe to me. I'm trying to get up to 100k. That's the tea. That's the tea. I feel like we spilled a lot of tea today. So if you want more videos like this, let me know, and I hope to see you in my next writing video. Okay, bye everyone.